You're mid-conversation, someone asks you something simple. How was your weekend? What do you think? And there's this pause. Not long, half a second, maybe less. But inside that half second, a door closes quietly. The honest answer gets pulled back. Examined, you scan it for anything that could go wrong. The tone, the word choice, whether it's too much or not enough. You revise, soften one part, trim another, and then, only then, do you let it out. By the time the words leave your mouth, they've already been through 3 rounds of editing, and somewhere in that process, something got lost. You're not sure what, just something. And no one notices. That's the part that sits with you. To everyone else, you're just talking. A little thoughtful maybe, careful with your words. But to you, it's exhausting in a way you've never been able to explain. Because you're not just having a conversation. You're running a real-time approval process on every sentence before it's allowed to exist. And you've been doing it so long, you don't remember how it started. I keep coming back to that word. Rehearsal. It's not quite right. Rehearsal implies preparation for something, as if you're getting ready for a performance that will unfold naturally in the end. But this isn't preparation, this is the performance. Every single time. There's no version where you just talk without the process happening. The editing is the talking for you. The filter runs constantly. And it's invisible. That's what makes it so isolating. No one sees the work. They just see the output. The carefully constructed sentence that sounds casual, that sounds natural, that sounds like it wasn't agonized over in the space between their question and your response. You might recognize this in yourself, or maybe actually recognize isn't the right word. It's more like you've always known it was there, but didn't realize that other people don't do this. That for some people, words just come out unfiltered, unreviewed, and the idea of that is almost incomprehensible. How do they not check first? The thing is, this didn't come from nowhere. Somewhere, I don't know exactly when, these things never have clean starting points. You learned that your unfiltered self was a problem, that your first instinct, your natural response, your authentic reaction was somehow wrong, not always dramatically wrong, sometimes just subtly wrong. Wrong enough to change someone's face, wrong enough to create that silence where you suddenly felt like you'd made a mistake you couldn't take back. I keep thinking about kitchen tables. Specifically, I keep thinking about the moment between saying something and watching it land. Perhaps you were 8 or 9 years old and came home with a story. Something that happened at school, something that felt important to you, and you started telling it, the words tumbling out the way kids' words do. And somewhere between the second and third sentence, you saw it. That slight shift. Not anger, not even irritation really, just absence. Like someone had already stopped listening before you finished. Like the space where their attention should have been had quietly emptied out. And you learned something in that moment. You learned to edit faster, to get to the point, to check before you started speaking, whether the story was worth telling at all. Or maybe it was different for you. Perhaps it was simply saying the honest thing, answering how was school, with how school actually was, and watching the mood in the room shift. Feeling that drop, learning that your real answer, your actual feeling, had consequences you couldn't predict or control. There was this one time, I don't know why this memory keeps resurfacing. I must have been young telling my mother about something a friend had said. Something that upset me. And mid-sentence I saw her eyes go somewhere else. Not away from me exactly, just elsewhere. And I remember stopping, literally stopping mid-word and saying, "Never mind, it's not important. It's cold in here." Where was I? Right, the learning, the way it happens in moments so small they don't register as formative. You don't think, this is teaching me to filter myself. You just quietly absorb that unfiltered, and you create problems, takes up too much space, asks for too much attention. So you build a filter, and the filter becomes automatic. So automatic that you don't even notice it running most of the time. You just know that speaking feels effortful, those conversations leave you tired in a way you can't explain. That there's always this slight delay between what you feel and what you say, and in that delay, something gets, I was going to say lost, but that's not quite it. Something gets translated, changed, made safer. The cost of this. I want to stay with the cost for a while because I think we skip over it too quickly. When part of your brain is constantly monitoring, scanning faces, adjusting output, running calculations about how things will land, you're never fully present. You're split, half of you is in the conversation, and half of you is watching the conversation from above, making sure it's going okay. It's like, I don't know, like being both the actor and the audience at the same time. Except that metaphor doesn't work because an actor knows they're performing. This is more like, actually, I'm not sure there's a good comparison. Maybe it's simpler than any metaphor. You're just never fully there. Part of you is always working. And that split attention has consequences that I don't think we discuss enough. You might find that you struggle to remember conversations afterward, not because you weren't paying attention, but because you weren't fully there to receive them. The monitoring takes bandwidth. You were so busy managing how you were coming across that you didn't actually absorb what was happening. The other person's words went through your ears, but they didn't land anywhere. They got crowded out by all the internal editing. I notice this in myself sometimes. Someone will reference something I apparently said, or something they told me, and there's just nothing, a blank space where the memory should be. And it's not that I don't care, it's that caring about how I'm perceived took up all the room. The exhaustion. I keep coming back to the exhaustion, not the dramatic, visible kind, the low-grade, constant kind, the kind that makes socializing feel like work, even when you're with people you love, the kind that makes you need to recover after conversations that should have been easy. Because easy conversations don't exist for you. Every exchange, no matter how small, requires the editing process, requires the filter, requires split attention. There's no coasting, there's no autopilot. You're always working. That's tired. And here's something I'm not sure how to say well. You might not even know what you actually think anymore. When you've been filtering for long enough, the filter stops feeling like a filter. It starts feeling like you. The edited version becomes the only version you can access. Someone asked what you want for dinner, and there's this strange blankness. Not because you don't have preferences, but because your preferences got routed through the what's the right answer system so many times that you lost direct access to them. What do I actually want? I don't know. What do I want? That question, that's the question that runs underneath everything. Not what you feel, but what you should feel. Not what you think, but what you should think. Not what you want to say, but what's safe to say. There's a term in psychology, I read about it somewhere, although I'm not sure if it fully applies here, called self-monitoring. It describes people who are highly attuned to social cues and adjust their behavior to fit different contexts. And some of this is normal. We all adapt to varying situations to some extent. That's just social intelligence. But there's a version of self-monitoring that tips into something else, where the adaptation isn't flexible, it's compulsive, where you literally cannot stop doing it, where the monitoring runs even when you're alone, even in your own head, even when there's no one to adjust for. I'm not sure if knowing this helps. Knowing there's a name for something doesn't make it stop, but there's something in having words for it. Something to understand is that this isn't a personal failing. It's a pattern, a learned one, and patterns, at least in theory. I don't want to make this sound easier than it is. Patterns can sometimes shift. The filter runs constantly because somewhere you learned that without it, you're dangerous. Not dangerous in a violent way. Dangerous in the sense that your natural self causes problems, creates distance, makes people pull away, makes the room go quiet in that specific way that still makes your chest tight. And maybe that was true once. Maybe there was a context where your unfiltered response genuinely wasn't safe, where reading the room and adjusting were necessary for survival, where the filter protected you from something real. But contexts change, and the filter doesn't. It continues to run long after the original danger has passed. It keeps editing for an audience that might not even be watching anymore. It keeps protecting you from consequences that stopped being relevant years ago. The child who learned to check their father's mood before speaking grows into an adult who checks everyone's mood before speaking. The teenager who got burned by honesty becomes an adult who pre-screens every statement for potential damage. The pattern travels forward. That's what patterns do. And at some point, this is the part that's hard to sit with, at some point, the filter stops being protection and starts being prison. Because here's what happens. When you're always editing, you're never spontaneous. And when you're never spontaneous, people don't actually meet you. They meet the edited version, the safe version, the version that's been pre-approved for public consumption. Which means the connection you're having, even with people you're close to, is a connection with the filtered self. Not the real self, not the unguarded, unedited, sometimes awkward, actual self. And part of you knows this. Part of you feels the loneliness of being surrounded by people who care about you, but don't actually know you. Because how could they? You've never let the unfiltered version exist long enough for anyone to meet it. You've never given them the chance. There's grief in that. I'm not sure if grief is the right word. Something heavier than sadness, but quieter than mourning. The grief of never having been allowed to just speak, to trust that your words, your actual words, were acceptable. To exist in a conversation without running quality control on yourself the entire time. The grief of watching other people talk freely and wondering what that feels like. The slight ease they have, they don't seem to be working as hard as they should. The way they just say things and the world doesn't end. There's envy in that, and I don't think we talk about it enough. The envy of watching people exist spontaneously when spontaneity feels dangerous to you. When every sentence feels like a risk that has to be managed. I'm losing the thread a bit here. What I'm trying to say is, the cost isn't just exhaustion. The cost is a kind of loneliness that's hard to put into words. Being surrounded by connection, but never quite a part of it. Always at a slight remove. Always behind the glass of your own editing. So, what do you do with this? This is the part I'm less sure about, because I don't want to say just stop filtering. That's not how this works. The filter runs automatically. It's not a choice you're making in the moment. It's a reflex. Telling yourself to stop is like telling yourself to stop flinching. The instruction doesn't reach the part of you that's doing it. But I think there might be something in not stopping the filter, but noticing it, not trying to turn it off, but becoming aware that it's running. Currently, for many people involved, the filter is invisible. It's just how conversations are. They don't realize they're editing because they've always been editing. It's like asking a fish to notice water. So maybe the first thing isn't speaking more freely. Perhaps the first step is to catch yourself mid-edit. Feeling the rehearsal happening, noticing the moment when you draft the sentence, scan it, and revise it. Not to stop it, just to see it. Oh, that's what I'm doing. That's the filter. There's something in that simple awareness. I don't want to oversell it. Awareness isn't transformation. Noticing a pattern isn't the same as changing it. But it might be the beginning of something. Understanding what it costs you, recognizing where it came from, feeling, maybe for the first time, how much work you do that no one ever sees. And maybe, slowly, not through effort but through noticing, the filter starts to feel less essential. Not because you forced yourself to change, but because you've realized you might have other choices now. The context that made the filter necessary might not be your current context, that the danger your nervous system is protecting against might no longer be present. I keep wanting to offer something more concrete here, and I'm not sure I have it. Maybe in the smallest of moments, there might be room to let a sentence out without the full review process, to say something a little less polished, to let a word slip through that wasn't pre-approved. Not always, not everywhere, but somewhere, with someone, one sentence that wasn't rehearsed. Just to see how it feels. To see if the danger you were expecting actually arrives, or if maybe what you find instead is just another person listening, still there, still present, not withdrawing, not punishing you for the unedited word, still with you. I'm not sure if that's enough. I'm not sure if any of this reaches the part of you that needs to be reached. The filter made sense at the time. It protected something that needed protecting. And maybe now, only when you're ready, only in places that feel safe enough, maybe now there's a small door. Not a solution. I don't have a solution. Just a question that doesn't require an answer at this time. What would it feel like to speak before the editing is done? You don't have to find out today. But the question can exist. The wandering can live somewhere quiet. And maybe that's enough for now. I don't know. It's the part I'm least certain about. In your own time, however that looks,